Welcome to my Love Life series where I dive into all the messy and failed cartoon relationships. And so far, I've only really covered single characters. But today, I'm going to shake things up by talking about a married woman called Lois Griffin. Because she's had a lot of flings, both before and even during her marriage to Peter. And honestly, she might have had more affairs than any other animated character in history. So in this video, I'm breaking down every one of Lois's wild escapades, exploring her bisexuality, and asking the big question, why does she cheat so much? So let's start by turning the clock all the way back to baby Lois, and it's here where we see her very first kiss, and it came from none other than her very own son.
There's my little Lois. What? Lois?
Yep, we're diving into some very serious Back to the Future type freaky shit here. This happened in Family Guy's 11th season in the episode Valentine's Day in Quahog, when Stewie travelled back in time and fell head over diaper for Lois, totally clueless to the fact that he was flirting with his own mum.
God, I bet that diaper is soaking wet.
Sigmund Freud would have had a real field day with this one. And when Stewie finally figured it out, his reaction was, let's say, understandable.
God, Stewie, what happened? None of your business what happened! Jeez, you kiss your mother with that mouth?
Now let's hurry past this freakiness and fast forward to when Lois was a teenager. During slumber parties, she would practice French kissing with her friends.
You know, at my sleepovers, we used to practice French kissing. Now everybody pair up.
Now it's not really clear if this was merely just practicing or if there was any real feelings behind it, but to cover all bases, we will be exploring her bisexuality later. Now, we know in Season 5's Meet the Quagmires that Peter and Lois met while they were 18 while Peter was working at her father's country club. And in the original timeline, they go to the big dance, share a kiss, and fall in love. However, in Season 8's Partial Terms of Endearment, we find out that Lois went to South Regina University, where she definitely played the field.
You're not uncomfortable, are you?
Look, I'm just not wild about the idea of running into anybody you used to date, that's all.
So either she and Peter broke up for a period, or she was having affairs behind his back, which, as I'll talk about later, is very on brand for her. But this was cleared up in Season 18's Peter and Lois's wedding.
Your father and I had dated for a few years, but I didn't know if it was going anywhere. So we decided to take a break, but remained close friends.
So while at college, she dated a girl called Naomi.
Well, let's just say Naomi and I experimented quite a bit in college.
20 years later, Lois would bump into Naomi again at her college reunion, and she had a big request for Lois.
You want me to carry your child?
Lois agreed to carry Naomi and her husband's baby, and long story short,
We had the abortion.
after Naomi, Lois started dating men, because in her own words,
Women are such teasers. That's why I went back to men.
but that didn't mean she'd stop being attracted to them. But again, we'll circle back to this later. Anyway, after this, Lois started dating a man called Ross Fisherman, and although they didn't last, they did end on good terms, because as we saw many years later when Lois was married to Peter, they bumped into each other at Costco, where Ross asked to meet up again for a friendly catch-up. Their meetup was purely innocent and platonic, but even still, that didn't stop Peter from spying on them, who was convinced that Lois was having an affair.
I mean, I can't even have coffee with a friend without you freaking out.
Watching these early episodes back, it is pretty funny seeing how outraged Lois was that Peter would ever think that she would cheat on him, as if she'd ever do something so horrible. And the irony is, of course, is that as the series goes on, Lois ends up having multiple affairs. But yes, going back to her college days, and she spent all of her money on a VHS copy of E.T.
It was $399.
Yeah, but you own it. You can just watch that now.
So to make some extra cash, she starred in an adult movie called The Quest for Fur, and it wasn't just one guy she hooked up with, but it was two, with one of them looking suspiciously familiar.
Oh, look at that. See, now I'm really starting to get suspicious.
Somebody order a pizza?
Of course, this wasn't actually Stewie's dad, because it's far too early, but as we'll soon talk about, maybe all of her children were born out of affairs. And funnily enough, this wouldn't be the last time that Lois appeared in a porno. And I know this because I've personally suffered through both appearances for a video for you guys. And that might be the first time that anyone can honestly say that they watched Korn for the plot. During or shortly after college, Lois dated Gene Simmons before he formed the rock band Kiss, who affectionately called her Loose Lois.
Loose Lois.
Cool, Loose Lois.
The legend herself.
Years later, they crossed paths again, and Peter is weirdly proud that his wife once hooked up with a rock legend.
My wife did kiss!
And Jay Giles.
What?
Nothing.
And if you didn't catch that, Lois also slept with Jay Giles. She probably met them during her hobby of making plastic molds of celebrities' body parts, even once molding Daryl Hall's, microphone. This was a reference to real artist turned groupie Cynthia Alberton, aka Cynthia Plastercaster, who used to make molds of famous Rockstars junk, like Jimi Hendrix. And that might just be how Lois met her next boyfriend, the pyrotechnics guy for Whitesnake.
What's Whitesnake?
That's the music mommies and daddies listen to.
But I guess that relationship quickly blew up because right after graduating college, Lois met Jerome and then they started dating. It is unclear for how long they were dating for, but much like Ross, they did at least end on good terms. And years later, she's genuinely happy to see him again. And Peter, of course, isn't too thrilled that his new friend used to bang his wife.
You're being silly. I mean, Jerome and I dated over 12 inches ago.
Even though they were no longer dating, Lois and Peter moved to New York and lived in apartments across from each other, with Lois sharing a place with Bonnie and, Bonnie.
God, we desperately need to get more female characters in this show.
This was in season 18's Peter and Lois's wedding, and of course this makes absolutely no sense, seeing as they wouldn't meet Bonnie until years later when she moved next door to them, but this is Family Guy we're talking about. They play fast and loose with their continuity. Anyway, it's in this episode that we also learn that Lois dated Brad Pitt, as well as a guy called Barry who drowned in a fountain. Lois's dad had big plans for her and wanted her to marry one of Quahog's up-and-comers, like Tom Tucker, Hartman, Seamus, and Billy Zane. This is of course when Seamus had both of his arms and legs, and he was quite a catch.
Let's go take a midnight swim at Sharkbite Cove.
Oh, sounds wonderful, Seamus, but I have other plans.
Meanwhile, Peter was still madly in love with Lois and proposed to her, but she's already engaged to Tom Tucker. But Lois was also still in love with Peter and asked her daddy to be with Peter instead, and surprisingly, he's cool with it. Little did she know though that Carter had devised a sinister plan by arranging Peter's bachelor party. You see, Carter played Daisy Fuentes to flirt with Peter and kiss him in front of a live camera, which Lois saw on TV.
Peter, how could you?
Heartbroken, she vowed to never see him again and so went back to Tom Tucker. But before she said I do, Peter burst in, revealed the truth and confessed his love.
Is that true?
I only did it to protect you from making a huge mistake.
Peter then beat up her entire family and the two ran away together to elope at Fenway Park during an actual game. And when Peter caught the game-winning ball and got pelted with food, Lois was already regretting her decision, but it was too late to change her mind as she was already pregnant with Meg. But Meg might not even be Peter's real daughter, as it was revealed in an earlier episode that her real father is Stan Thompson.
And Meg's real father's name is Stan Thompson.
She most likely hooked up with Stan before getting back together with Peter, which could explain why Peter treats Meg so terribly and why Lois often joins in, because deep down she might blame Meg for forcing her into marriage so quickly.
From the bottom of my heart, I wish we never had you.
So, you'd think this would be the end of the story, right? Lois married Peter, had a family, and they're still together, but we're only just getting started. I'm only on page 7 of my 25-page script. Because as it turns out, Chris might not even be Peter's either, as it was revealed in season 17's You Can't Handle the Booth that she had an affair with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
It was in his trailer during that tornado chasing movie, and all I know is 9 months later, Chris is born.
Keep in mind though that this episode is non-canon, as the family are actually actors and are doing a DVD commentary for an episode. Plus, I think Chris is definitely Peter's true son. I mean, they both share the same old ballsack chin. Now, let's transition awkwardly from ballsack chins to mine and my husband's new novel, Script to Scream, because I am very, very bad at segues. So, the story follows a washed-up 80s scream queen who joins a low-budget reboot of her old horror franchise. But when filming begins inside an old abandoned Christmas theme park, she realizes that the on-set kills are horrifyingly real. As the cameras roll, the blood starts flowing, and it's definitely not corn syrup this time. It comes out on November 25th and we've only printed a limited number of copies, so please don't wait and pre-order your copy today. Thank you so much and let's get on with the video. Anyway, Lois's first ever affair as a married woman happens in season 5's Bill and Peter's Bogus Journey. In it, former President Bill Clinton's limo breaks down outside the Griffin house, and when Peter tries to lift up the car himself, he throws his back and ends up in hospital. The president drops by to see Peter, and noticing that he's feeling over the hill, he promises to show him the time of his life. So when Peter is discharged, Bill takes him out and shows him how to feel young again. But when Bill starts to become too much of a bad influence on Peter, Lois goes to his hotel to confront him.
Mr. President, I need to have a word with you. Well, you certainly are very persuasive.
And yeah, instead of giving him an earful, she gives him a mouthful. And that's when Peter walks in on them and Lois tries to defend her decision.
He reduced the percentage of Americans on welfare to its lowest level in 33 years.
Peter is understandably heartbroken, so to even out the score, Lois tells him that he can sleep with someone else. And out of everyone, Peter chooses Lois's mother.
You know what? She's hot. Guilty. All right?
Lois's mum is totally up for it, but Peter eventually decides not to go through with it. He goes to clear the air with Clinton, only to end up sleeping with him as well.
Boy, you are good. You are really good.
This is the first time where the writers really went all in on Lois's cheating. And honestly, it is hilarious because it's so out of character. Well, by this point in the series anyway. But as the seasons went on, the show got more and more absurd, and Lois's affair went from being a ridiculous one-off scenario to her trying to sleep with her daughter's teenage boyfriend. In season 8's Go Stewie Go, Meg introduces her family to her new boyfriend Anthony, and everyone is shocked to find that he's actually normal. Anthony immediately lays on the charm with Lois, showering her with compliments.
Has anybody ever told you you're pretty enough to be a movie star, Mrs. Griffin?
Meanwhile, Peter is constantly making cruel remarks about Lois's looks.
Once you get those pants off, it's like 2 sagging pressed hams and a slice of pizza.
Ah, thank you, Peter. That makes me feel terrific.
As a result, Lois starts getting a crush on Anthony, and even tries to spy on him and Meg kissing.
I bet you taste like Mountain Dew and Starburst.
The next day, she gives him a card containing her husband's work schedule along with her menstrual cycle. She then gets Meg out of the house by telling her to go and pick up her grandfather, and as soon as Meg is gone, Lois makes her move.
Let me ask you this. Do my gray hairs bother you?
What gray hairs?
Kiss me!
But before they can go any further, Meg walks in on them. Lois comes clean to Peter, and she has the audacity to actually blame him.
Well, I hope you're happy, Peter. Our daughter hates me, and it's all because of you.
Me? What the hell did I do?
She doesn't even apologise, for God's sake. And sure, I get that Peter made her feel unattractive with his snide remarks, but Lois, you literally came onto your daughter's teen boyfriend. A boy who, may I add, might not even be 18. And this won't be the last time that she tries it on with a teenager, as she then tries to sleep with Justin Bieber. In season 11's Lois Comes Out of Her Shell, Peter once again makes Lois feel ugly and old.
What were once 2 firm, impressive mountain peaks have become a barren, strip-mined, muddy landslide that droops ever downward.
After humiliating her in front of her friends and family, Lois gets a new makeover and starts dressing younger and sexy. And while Peter used to tease Lois for being old, now he can't keep up with her.
I thought you liked having a hot young wife.
Yeah, well, I did at first, but the novelty's worn off.
Lois then ditches Peter and heads to a Justin Bieber concert to feel even younger.
Oh my God, he is so adorable. I could just bite him and eat him up.
Hoping to get closer to the teen star, she sneaks backstage and into his dressing room.
Okay, just get your pants off, hon.
But before she can do anything, Peter bursts in and beats the crap out of Bieber. And just like before, Peter apologizes for making Lois feel old and gross, and this is literally the same story as the Anthony episode. You would have thought that Peter learned his lesson by now. These episodes with Anthony and Justin Bieber just set the tone for the rest of Lois's very messy love life, because if Peter neglects her or makes her feel bad about herself, she is going to find attention elsewhere. It's also in season 11 that we find out that Lois is mentally checked out on her marriage and has 2 cell phones, meaning that she's most likely messaging other men.
You should know that Mom has emotionally let you go. It won't be long before she takes a lover.
And literally just 1 season later after this, Lois cheats on Peter again in season 12's Into Harmony's Way. When Peter forms a band with Quagmire, the 2 go on tour and Lois decides that while the cat's away, the wife will play, and soon moves in a brand new man into the house.
Oh, boy. Larry, you gotta get out of here.
It's been a great 2 months. Meg, keep painting.
So yeah, Lois has been having an affair for 2 months, and the craziest part is that the kids don't even care that their dad is basically being replaced. In fact, the guy seems to be a better father than Peter ever was, seeing as he actually encourages Meg to keep painting. He actually sounds very kind and supportive, which makes me wonder, would the family have been better off if Peter remained on tour and Larry stuck around? We'll never really know, since the guy's entire screen time basically lasted 2 seconds, but in that brief moment, the Griffin household almost felt normal. So by this point in their marriage, Lois has slept with Bill Clinton, came on to 2 teenagers, and had a 2-month affair with a stranger called Larry. And in season 13, she almost sleeps with someone else, although this time, things are a little different because she actually does it with Peter's blessing.
Let me get this straight. You want me to have sex with another man?
Oh, not just any man, Lois. This is Jesus we're talking about.
In season 13's The 2,000-Year-Old Virgin, the Griffins are out shopping at the mall when Peter instantly falls in love with a very expensive massage chair. And while they're there, they run into their old pal Jesus. Jesus and Peter start hanging out, and Jesus admits that he's still a virgin, so Peter offers to help him finally get laid.
We are gonna help you lose your virginity.
Yeah, God, I love sex.
After several unsuccessful dates, Lois decides to step in and talk to Jesus about women. The two go out for dinner where she comforts him and pays him a few compliments.
You're sensitive, you died for our sins and ascended into heaven, and you got nice skin.
Later on, Jesus meets up with Peter and tells him he's finally found the woman that he wants to lose his virginity to.
Lois.
Lois, my partner at the law firm?
No, Peter. It's your Lois. Lois Griffin.
At first, Peter's completely against it, but then again, it's Jesus. He died for our sins, so it does feel kind of awkward to say no. But when Jesus sweetens the deal by offering to buy Peter that massage chair, Peter literally pimps out his own wife in exchange for furniture. Peter then tells Lois about the arrangement, and she is hesitant at first, but eventually warms up to the idea.
And the Son of God's first time should be special. Even divine. Maybe I'd actually be doing a good thing.
So Peter's thrilled with his new massage chair, thinking that he got the best end of the deal. But that's until he starts dreaming of Lois getting down with the King of Kings.
Oh, Jesus. Jesus.
And suddenly Peter's not feeling so blessed anymore and realizes that he's made a terrible mistake. And that's when another man overhears Peter's story and reveals that Jesus isn't actually a virgin after all. In fact, he's been using the same trick to sleep with married women for years. Peter then races to the hotel to stop them, but when he arrives, Lois has already backed out, explaining that she just couldn't go through with it because her marriage is too important. Compared to other examples, this one doesn't seem as bad because Lois technically had Peter's consent and ultimately didn't go through with it. But it still highlights her willingness to entertain the idea. Still, Lois's restraints don't last too long because her so-called loyalty quickly wavers again just 2 seasons later when she almost hooks up with Peter's own son. In season 15's House of Peters, it's revealed that Peter once donated his little Griffins years ago for some quick cash, and now they're all grown up, they track their daddy down.
I've never felt proud of any of my children until now.
To welcome the new family members, they throw a big party, and it's there that Lois meets one of Peter's sons, Larry.
You look so much like Peter when I first met him.
Well, I'm guessing you look exactly the same too. You're in such great shape.
The next day, Larry stops by and offers to take Lois out for lunch. The two go for a walk and share some ice cream, and when it drips onto her fingers, Larry offers to clean it off. Larry wastes no time in putting on the moves and ends up making out with Lois right there. The following day though, Lois confides in Brian about her infidelity, and naturally Brian immediately takes his shot too.
I'm confiding in a friend.
Oh, you're the safe friend.
Now, pause it right here, but you might have noticed that I haven't mentioned Brian or Quagmire yet in this video, and that's because I've already covered their obsession with Lois in depth in their own love life videos, so I won't bore anyone by repeating myself now. Anyway, Lois continues to hang out with Larry, and he offers her a neck massage.
Okay, but let's keep this friendly. You can choke me for just a second.
That's when Peter walks in on them, just as Larry is undoing Lois's bra with his teeth. All of a sudden, Larry then confesses his love for Lois.
I'm in love with Lois. I knew it the moment we kissed. Kissed!
This triggers a full-on brawl between the father and son, with Larry absolutely wiping the floor with Peter, but before he can finish the job, Lois steps in and knocks him out cold. Lois apologises, explaining that Larry reminded her of a younger version of Peter and that she missed that kind of attention. Again, this is a very familiar story with these two, with Lois feeling underappreciated and unseen, and so is very responsive to when she meets someone who shows the slightest bit of interest. Therefore, Larry represents a memory of when Peter cared, so it's less about lust and more about validation. And as we'll come to learn, it's an endless cycle, with these stories always ending up with Peter promising to do better.
Maybe I have been taking you for granted, but I promise I'll make it up to you. I'll be the best husband ever.
So how much do you want to bet that it doesn't take too long for the same problems to show up again? Well, if you want to guess one season later, then you'd be absolutely right. In season 16's Don't Be a Dickens at Christmas, the Griffins spend the holidays at Lois's parents' mansion, and during dinner, the waiter gives Lois a single compliment, and instantly she's ready to jump his bones.
More champagne, miss?
Miss? Oh my. You're very funny, Lance. You're a very handsome, funny man. Now let's see that penis.
This moment actually tells us a lot about her. The through line in all of Lois's relationships is that she's starved for affection. She doesn't get what she craves from Peter, and as such, when anyone else shows her the hint of appreciation, she's instantly responsive. In the episode, the ghost of Patrick Swayze shows Peter his possible future if he continues to be selfish. He reveals that after Peter's death, Lois quickly moves on and ends up with Lance. Of course, this future doesn't actually happen, but even in this brief glimpse, Lois looks genuinely happier with Lance than she ever did with Peter. Also in this episode, we get a throwaway line implying that Lois is having an ongoing affair with a man called Dird.
We should probably call Dird.
You mean Dad?
No, the fat guy who sleeps with Mom.
You guys talking about Dud?
And what's even stranger is that the kids are fully aware of it and seem completely fine with their mum cheating. This is becoming a recurring joke in the series, where Lois's infidelity is almost normalised within the family. It's treated less like a scandal and more like an open secret. By this point in the show, Lois and Peter's marriage is treated like an absolute joke. Now, it's completely toxic. I mean, they pretty much hate each other now, and in season 17's Brian Robot, we literally catch Lois having an affair with a mystery man. That same season gave us Family Guy Light, where Brian and Stewie start to suspect that Lois is cheating after they find a saucy book that she's been writing. Using her writing as a clue, they trace down a man called Horatio at the grocery store, and later that day, they see her picking him up. They continue tailing her all the way to the stables, where she leads him inside and Brian finally confronts her. Lois comes clean, revealing that Horatio is quote-unquote special. It turns out that Lois volunteers at a special needs living facility and takes Horatio out once a week to ride horses. But in true Lois fashion, she admits that she still fantasizes about him dominating her.
Yes, I have fantasies about him dominating me with his idiot strength, but it's just that.
And honestly, it is laughable that Lois is still offended by Brian's accusation, especially when we literally saw her just have an affair only 2 episodes ago. Not to mention that in season 19's episode, Customer of the Week, Pete discovers that she's messaging other men.
Yep, you're unhappy. Yep, who's Greg? Yep, there's Greg.
This is just played off as a joke and never brought up again, and at this point, having affairs has become a core part of Lois's character, so much so that we don't even bat an eyelid anymore. So, we've established that a common theme in Lois and Peter's marriage is that he will piss her off, and so she'll flirt with other men, and they continue this overused story in season 20's Girlfriend, eh? Here Lois is fed up with picking up Peter's wet swim shorts. And when Stewie breaks a hole in the wall and Peter is too childish to fix it, Lois decides to call in a handyman. And that's when Jamie shows up, and he's a total stud.
So you just fill the hole with your cock?
Yes, it's very thick.
So Jamie gets to work on patching up the hole.
Well, it's still a bit moist, but should dry up soon.
Don't count on it.
What's that?
Nothing.
And with that job done, Lois and Meg quickly find new reasons to keep him around, even going as far to trash the house just so he'd have more repairs to do. Meanwhile, Lois is still slipping on Peter's soaking wet swim shorts. Even Chris ends up giving his dad dating advice since he's got a girlfriend now, but Peter, convinced that Chris is making her up, drags him all the way to Canada to meet her. With Peter out of the house, Lois gets dolled up and tries to seduce Jamie, but she's got competition because Meg is also after the handyman, turning the whole thing into a mother-daughter flirt-off. Their rivalry goes so far that they accidentally knock Jamie off his ladder, where he's flung into several telephone poles before he's then crushed by a truck. So Lois's horniness literally leads to the death of an innocent man. And when they attend Jamie's funeral, they meet his twin brother, and Lois wastes no time in putting the moves on the poor grieving guy. Sure, Lois didn't cheat here, she was just being incredibly thirsty and once again chasing validation from someone who wasn't her husband. And just one season later, in the episode A Wife-Changing Experience, Lois ends up seeking that same validation from another man, her neighbour Joe. The episode begins with a pool party celebrating Peter and Lois's anniversary, and when Lois goes inside to change out of her wet wetsuit, Joe accidentally walks in on her completely nude.
I'm sorry, I'm leaving!
The next day, Bonnie tells Lois that for the first time in 9 years, Joe was able to achieve full mass and they had mind-blowing sex. Later, when Lois is cleaning shoes on the porch, she notices Joe spying on her, and enjoying the attention, she puts on a little show, soaking herself with the hose. Feeling desired and sexy for the first time in forever, Lois tries to make a move on Peter. And of course, Peter immediately ruins the mood.
What do you say tonight I turn the TV off and turn you on?
What are you, drunk?
So, not getting attention from her own husband, she gets it from somewhere else. So Lois starts putting on another flirty front lawn show for Joe. Only this time, Quagmire spots her and tells Peter.
I saw Lois strutting around your front yard, basically putting on a sex show for Joe, and he was into it.
Peter confronts Joe and immediately knocks him out, and when Lois finds out, she is furious, telling Peter exactly why she was putting on these shows for Joe.
So what if I was putting on a show? At least someone was in the audience.
So Peter tries to get his own back by putting on his own sexy displays. Meanwhile, Lois dials up the sexy by actually going over to Joe's, but Joe puts a stop to her flirting.
Please know that you have done a great service for my and Bonnie's sex life.
So with Joe out of the picture, Lois looks for her next attention fix elsewhere, ending up at the Veterans Hospital.
I'm a sexually desirable woman!
When she's carted off by the police, she discovers that Peter is also in custody for pressing himself against the glass at a Lululemon store. And during the ride, they both apologise, admitting that they've taken each other for granted. The two of them then start fooling around in the back of the van, all while Principal Shepard watches. By the end, Peter and Lois find out that the key to spicing up their sex life is through some very kinky roleplay. Lois embodies the classic sitcom trope of the unappreciated housewife, a woman starved for affection who looks elsewhere when her husband takes her for granted. Like similarly, The Simpsons have done this story before a few times with Marge, like in Season 1's Life in the Fast Lane with Shag, as well as Season 21's The Devil Wears Nada, where she almost got with Ned. But here's the difference, The Simpsons only revisits that story once in a while, so it feels meaningful when it happens, whereas Family Guy milks this trope every single season. As such, it's treated as a bigger deal when Marge's eye wanders, whereas with Lois, it's kind of to be expected. The writers have gone to this empty well so many times that it removes all emotional impact. So, at the start of the video, I did touch on Lois being sexually attracted to women, and this is something that comes up again and again with her character, from practicing French kissing with her friends to dating Naomi back in college. And there are plenty of other examples too, like in Season 4's Brian Sings and Swings. This is where she shows Meg how to really kiss a girl. She also fantasizes about running away with women, like in Season 20's Prescription Heroin, where she falls in love with a target cashier named Esperanza. And just when it looks like they're about to embrace, Esperanza is sliced in half by a laser beam. But the one woman Lois may truly have feelings for is her neighbour Bonnie. We first see this hint in Season 7 when Lois applies lotion to Bonnie's back and goes a little too low.
You're going a little low there, Lois. Okay, I'm sorry.
Then in the pilot of the Cleveland show, as Cleveland is about to move, he asks Lois and Bonnie to make out, and they definitely get way too into it. But it wouldn't be until season 23's Cool Hand Lois that the writers finally explore the possibility of Lois and Bonnie being in love. The episode opens with a high school auction where a romantic vacation for two is up for grabs. Bonnie and Lois get into a bidding war, with Lois ultimately winning. Lois is very excited to get away with Peter, but he couldn't care less. And then Lois walks in on Chris masturbating.
Oh my god! Oh my god! What the hell, Chris?
Lois talks to Meg about it, admitting that she thinks that women don't pleasure themselves.
I'm not sure my subconscious will allow me to think about any man other than your father.
It seems that the writers really want us to forget about all those many times that Lois has cheated. And there's no way she hasn't masturbated before. But of course, continuity isn't exactly a priority for Family Guy writers. So Lois takes Meg's advice and watches John Cena chop wood on her phone and decides to try and self-pleasure. And after that, she becomes obsessed with it, constantly doing it, which is something that drives the whole family crazy.
Let it be noted that everyone else was able to pleasure themselves in a timely fashion and still show up to dinner promptly.
Lois gets so horny that she visits a sex shop where she bumps into Bonnie. And now that Lois doesn't need a man for pleasure, she finally finds herself able to give another woman a genuine compliment.
Yeah, when you realize you don't need a man for pleasure, other women no longer feel threatening.
The two go out for a glass of wine, and later that night, Lois comes home with a big announcement.
I'm dating Bonnie now.
Hello.
Lois decides to take Bonnie on that romantic getaway, and they check into the hotel, and Bonnie asks if she wants to have sex or complain about the room.
What's there even to complain about? We have a nice queen-size bed, which honestly should be a king, but look at the view.
Meanwhile, Peter and Joe are on their way to win their wives back, and as they spy on them at dinner, they realise just how happy Lois and Bonnie are without them.
Lois hasn't looked that happy with me in years.
Back at the hotel, the two women go back to their room and prepare to get intimate, but in the end, they can't go through with it.
You didn't actually cheat on me?
Of course not, Peter.
Lois and Bonnie are drawn to each other not just out of lust, but because they both crave affection, respect, and connection, which is something they rarely get from their husbands. Saying that though, the idea just wasn't developed enough. Like, if you're gonna go and have Lois and Bonnie be together, at least dive a bit deeper and have fun with the premise. And what really annoys me about Lois in this episode is her complete lack of thought for her husband's feelings. She just randomly decides that she and Bonnie are an item now, and just expects her family to accept her choice and move on. But are we even surprised by this point? Over the seasons, there's a pretty clear pattern, which is when Peter is shown to be clueless, neglectful, or just plain mean in their relationship, it pushes Lois to look for attention elsewhere, whether that's affection, validation, or just some fun. It's as toxic as a relationship can be, and it's also a trope that Family Guy have played with over and over, so who knows how many other lovers or potential lovers are on the horizon. And so we've come to the end of the video. If you'd like to see me do another version of this but with Peter, then let me know in the comments below. Also, thank you so much to everyone who has pre-ordered my new book. I really appreciate it.